Welcome to my views on News Thursday second video. Firstly, Somaliland, where number of casualties is rising. In the previous video, I reported that one person died in clashes between security forces and protesters in Somaliland, but now it seems that number of casualties is increasing, though no statement from the government, from opposition parties, because internet was shut down in Somaliland. We have now some details for you, how many have been killed, and one of the killed is reportedly was security guard of Somaliland's top opposition politician. Secondly, viewers, some alarming developments on Afar-Somali region border. I think 24 hours ago, I reported about clashes between Afars and Somalis in border areas. But since this morning, clashes have really intensified, and now dozens of casualties are being reported on both sides. Where is this fighting ongoing, in Afar or in Somali region? How many have been killed? We have details for you. And thirdly, viewers, while Ethiopian federal government, Ethiopian National Defense Force, Somali regional government claim that Al-Shabaab fighters had been pushed out of the Somali region in last week's counter offensive by Ethiopian government forces, but we keep on hearing about Al-Shabaab's presence in Ethiopia. Yesterday I reported about Al-Shabaab's bases which they have established in Afdir zone of Somali region. Now we have a report from another zone of the Somali region, where today heavy fighting erupted between Al-Shabaab fighters and Somali regional forces. And lastly was Jawar Mohammed, opposition politician, vice chairman of Oromo Federalist Congress, OFC, is back in Ethiopia, and he released a message on his return to Ethiopia. We'll have a look at his message, and question is, what did he gain from this visit? Because he says that this work for just peace will continue. He was there for seeking peace, as he is claiming. Question is, what did he gain from this visit? What did Ethiopia gain from Jawar's visit? What did people of Oromia achieve from this visit? People of Oromia suffering because of drought. We'll have a detailed look at Jawar's diaspora visit. He's back in Ethiopia. Firstly, our Somaliland situation is worrying. In previous video, I reported that one protester was killed and several were injured. Now, death toll is rising. We know that Somaliland opposition parties, UCID and Wadani led by Abdir Rahman, UCID led by Faisal Ali, announced to protest on Thursday. Today, Interior Ministry of Somaliland granted permission to these parties, but last night Somaliland's Interior Minister accused Somaliland opposition parties that they had invited armed people, militia fighters from Mogadishu to create a law and order situation in protests, and government claimed to have arrested some militia members in Somaliland who allegedly arrived in Somaliland from Somalia. What happened today? We know that protests are against Musi Abdi, the president. Opposition parties claim that Musi Abdi is not sincere in holding presidential election on time in November. Protests started. Protests were held in 6 regions of the Somaliland. Big demonstrations in Hargeisa, in Eregavo, Borko, in several other places. Hundreds took to the streets Abdirahman was seen leading the demonstrations. Faisal Ali was also seen, though I have not seen pictures of Faisal Ali. I have seen pictures of Abdirahman, but people confirm that Faisal Ali of UCID was also leading demonstration. Then internet was shut down. Why was internet shut down? It's not clear. But now, reportedly, an hour ago, gradually internet has been resumed. It is being restored in Somaliland. What led to the casualties? Who killed these Somaliland protesters? Did the protesters violate any conditions agreed by the opposition and government? Because before these demonstrations, government and opposition, they held talks and agreement was reached that opposition can protest on Thursday in 6 regions. Was there any breach of this agreement? Why did security officials fire at these protesters? Live ammunition was fired. If protesters have been killed, it means that live ammunition was fired. Tear gas was fired. Did protesters try to take law into their hands, or did Musibai of this government try to suppress these demonstrations by using force? Last time, when more than a month ago opposition protested, we saw that police used excessive force. Police fired live ammunition, and once again we are seeing the same. And now it is being said that number of casualties has risen to 3. 3 protesters have been killed, and one of the killed is a security guard of bodyguard of Abdirahman, Wadani party's leader. Name of the killed person is Ahun Abadi Dabare. He was bodyguard of Wadani's Abdirahman. Reportedly, he has been killed, and 2 others. If 3 have been killed, it means that there could be dozens injured. Since internet was down, so it was difficult to get information, but now it has been restored. So in coming hours, we will see details about number of killed and injured. 3 casualties confirmed and more than a dozen injured. No statement from the Somaliland government so far, from opposition parties as well, mainly due to disruption, suspension of internet. So situation is alarming, viewers. Peaceful demonstrations have turned into a violent confrontation between protesters and security forces. Question is, who led to this confrontation? Who led to the killing of protesters and to the development that more than a dozen have been wounded? We'll update you in next video about government's position and Somaliland's opposition position about what happened today in Somaliland. Secondly, viewers, 2 days ago, I reported about clashes on Afar-Somali border. It's not a new thing because for years there have been clashes, on and off clashes in border areas between Afars and Somalis. 3 areas are disputed between them: Undofo, Udate and Garbaise. Both sides claim that they own these territories. And for years we have seen clashes. There have been some attempts to find a solution. Talks have been held as well, but talks could not succeed. Around 3 days ago, these fresh clashes erupted. But since this morning, clashes intensified. And now what we have learned is that dozens of casualties are being reported on both sides, on Afar side, on Somali region side as well. The person I talked to said 200 have been killed. But I would say that dozens have been killed, though he was very sure that 200 had been killed on both sides. And where are these clashes ongoing? Undofo, a main town, disputed between them, between Afar and Somali for years, main place. And secondly, Dunlahile. Dunlahile is not disputed. Dunlahile is in Siti zone of Somali region. I think it's in western part of Siti. And it's around 8 to 10 kilometers away from Afar-Somali border. Clashes have been going on in Dunlahile as well. It means that Afar fighters, Afar militia members, they entered Siti zone. Why is there any fighting in Dunlahile, which is part of Siti, part of Somali region? Who are involved in these clashes? Just militias, locals, or forces as well? Well, right now, when I'm recording this video, reportedly large convoys of Somali region forces have been seen heading towards Undufo. After fighting near Dunlahile, Somali regional forces became involved too. And if Somali regional forces are involved, it means that Afar regional forces will also be involved too. Main fighting is close to Undufo on border and in Dunlahile and close to Dunlahile. Some other places like Kudanjale and Gubto are also being mentioned, where fighting is being reported between Afars and Somalis. Is Ethiopian National Defense Force involved there in any form, in mediation, in backing, in stopping? We could not confirm the presence of Ethiopian National Defense Force to de-escalate the situation. There is dire need of the arrival of Ethiopian National Defense Force in this area. Dozens have been killed, more will be killed if there is no intervention by Ethiopian federal government. Talks about these territories have been failed, but a new initiative is needed by the federal government to bring about peace in these border areas. Thirdly, viewers, Al-Shabaab's attack on Ethiopia, it was launched around 10 days ago. Ethiopian government, Ethiopian National Defense Force, Somali regional government claimed that Al-Shabaab fighters' attack had been repelled. Al-Shabaab was on the run. Its fighters had been killed, more than 800 killed, claimed Mustafa Omar, Somali region's president. And then Ethiopia deployed its troops to 3 regions of Somalia. In Gado, in Baku and Hiran regions, Ethiopian government forces were deployed and new bases were established. But from the Somali region of Ethiopia, Al-Shabaab could not be completely pushed back. Yesterday, I reported about Al-Shabaab's hideouts, their bases in Afdir zone of the Somali region. They managed to reach Al-Kere and they managed to reach some mountainous areas on Oromia's Somali region border. More than 100 Al-Shabaab fighters have managed to reach their target place in the Somali region. So we confirmed back then that Al-Shabaab was establishing bases on Oromia, Somali region border. Now another development which indicates that Al-Shabaab's presence in Ethiopia could not be wiped out by Somali region forces. Fighting is being reported in Shabale. In Shabale, there is Kilafo, and reportedly this morning heavy clashes erupted near Kilafo and near Nanko Duble. Hundreds of militia fighters, Al-Shabaab fighters, are involved in this fighting, and Somali regional forces are obviously involved. They're trying to remove Al-Shabaab from Shabale, from Kilafo. It's not in Kilafo town, it's in the outskirts of this place, in the border areas of Kilafo. But this development once again confirms that Al-Shabaab is now operating in the Somali region of Ethiopia. If their presence near Kilafo, near Al-Kare has been confirmed, it means that Ethiopian government forces could not completely remove Al-Shabaab from these Ethiopian territories. Only thing which remains to be seen is will these Al-Shabaab fighters in the Somali region gain any support from locals? Have they activated, have they formed local sleeper cells? And will they be able to receive any support from Somalia as well? Because Ethiopian forces are deployed to border area. So several questions. Only confirmation is that in two places Al-Shabaab's presence in Ethiopia has been confirmed now. Lastly, viewers, Jawar Mohammed, Oromo opposition politician, vice chairman of Oromo Federalist Congress, is back in Ethiopia. For around 2 months, he was outside Ethiopia. He visited Europe. He then went to the US, then Canada, and he addressed dozens of Oromo diaspora gatherings there. On his return, he released a message. What is he saying? He says, "This work for just peace will continue." So he says his trip was for peace, for just peace. Secondly, he said that he flew from Washington to Addis Ababa by a plane which was being flown by an Ethiopian pilot of Ethiopian Airlines. And this was last flight of the Ethiopian captain, and 42 years this captain served Ethiopia. So he appreciated the services of the captain. Now question is, what did Jawar gain from this visit? What did Oromia, what did OFC gain from this visit? He went there for peace. I am unable to understand why did he go to seek for peace in the US, in Europe, in Canada. And how will peace come in Ethiopia? By Jawar's Bakle Garba's meetings with Oromo diaspora in US, in Europe and Canada. Of course, he tried to stop funding there by Oromo diaspora members for some individuals and groups in Ethiopia who are working to destabilize the country. Who are the groups? No one knows. But it is said that indirectly he called for an end to diaspora funding for Oromo Liberation Army. Indirectly, he said, though he did not name Oromo Liberation Army. Yes, he might have held some meetings with foreign officials as well. Perhaps one of the main objectives of this tour was to engage international community, to put pressure upon Ethiopian government for the start of new national dialogue with participation of all stakeholders. Some meetings might have been held there, though not officially confirmed. So I am just unable to understand how will this diaspora trip of 2 months bring peace to Ethiopia. Secondly, Jawar's speeches have led to some splits. Oromo diaspora members, we have seen splits there. OSA did not, OSA Board of Directors, Oromo Study Association, did not invite, it was against invitation to Jawar to speak at OSA's conference as a keynote speaker. Splits emerged after some Jawar's controversial remarks, and it was seen, Jawar's comments were seen as pro-Ethiopian government, pro-prosperity party. And it was as if he was working for Ethiopian government. There was this perception after some Jawar's speeches in Europe, in US and Canada. That is why Oromo diaspora split. because Oromo diaspora overwhelmingly supports Oromo Liberation Army. It funds Oromo Liberation Army as well. But Jawar is very popular among Oromo diaspora as well. This Jawar's new line for peace, how will it be received by diaspora? That remains to be seen, though as I said earlier, there have been some splits. What did he do for the drought affected people in Oromia? Did he raise any funds for them while he was there? He could have raised funds for them because he is in a position that people listen to him. Oromo diaspora members listen to him. So he could have raised funds for the people, but I have not seen any announcements about fundraising for the people of Oromia who are suffering because of this drought. Let's see what next steps he takes for this just peace, which he says he is working for. Will he involve some Ethiopian parties as well for this just peace? Because for peace, you don't just need the support of diaspora community. You need the involvement of Ethiopians as well, living in Ethiopia, I mean. So will he engage other ethnic groups, other regions for this just peace which he is talking about? Let's see. Thank you for watching.